Welcome once again to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Scott Mayway, Get Sports 25 to life. Talking about DraftKings tonight. If you're looking for a full pitcher breakdown, we do have that in the pitcher nail down that we recorded earlier, so check that out for some advanced numbers. But we'll give you our guys that we're looking at. Little precursor here. There's a ton of weather concerns, so keep that in mind before you lock in these guys into your lineups. Fortunately, some of the places with weather concerns have roofs, so knowing which places have domes you might be beneficial for you tonight. But starting here at the top, Masahiro Tanaka, $10,600, and Francisco Liriano, $10,000. I think we both agree. Both are obviously great GBP options, but both guys to be considered in cash. And you mentioned on the other podcast that if there's big-time weather concerns in Pittsburgh where, you don't feel comfortable with Liriano being able to pitch as, his full amount of pitches with a possible delay, then Tanaka's a perfectly fine pivot in your cash games.
Yeah, I think Tanaka is probably going to be my starting pitcher one in cash games just because, playing in a dome tonight when there's, I think, 7 or 8 games with really real rain concerns, got to feel pretty safe about that. I don't love the price just because he doesn't have that much history behind him this year after his most recent injury, so that concerns me a little bit, but he's looked pretty good. And he's been striking guys out, and it's really hard to find any real fault in him that should really scare you away other than his really high price tag.
Yeah, absolutely. He's people say he's not healthy, whatever they want to say. Really doesn't matter. But either way, I think that he's in a great spot tonight.
Yep.
Against the second worst team in the league against righties. Past that, Dallas Keuchel's a guy that I like a lot. This is a Colorado team that strikes out a ton against left-handed pitching. You look at their numbers here. Overall against lefties, they're 24th in Team WOBA. First in strikeout rate, 25.7%. Team ISO is 104. And, they haven't been able to hit anyone recently. This has been a team that's just been shut down by much worse pitchers than Dallas Keuchel. Dallas Keuchel, right now in the running for Cy Young. He's having a hell of a season. So he doesn't have a high strikeout rate, but we saw last time he faced a team that was terrible against lefties. Went complete game, 11 Ks against the White Sox. I think that Keuchel he's one of my favorite options when you factor in price tonight.
Yeah, I don't mind him at all. He just feels like one of the safer plays because of that big minus 200. Colorado has been great on the road. They haven't really hit anyone well on the road all year. So that's going to be probably my second cash game option there because that's another game you don't have to worry about the rain at all with it being inside in Houston, most likely. So it's probably going to be Tanaka, then him, and then my third cash game option is Wei-Yin Chen against Philly is probably my favorite option, honestly. The one I feel most positive about based on his price. Only $7,700 on DraftKings. A minus 195 favorite is the second biggest on the board. Got to deal with a little bit of weather concerns, but that's probably the most minimal concern out of all the games that are dealing with weather concerns. So I'm going to try and stay positive about that one and hope that weather works out. That's just a great matchup for him. Philly is a team that really isn't hitting anyone, definitely not hitting anyone really well right now. The guys in the middle of the lineup heated up for a while and they've cooled off a little bit again. They just haven't been scoring almost any runs. The over-under in that game is 8, but it looks like that's favored pretty heavily towards the Baltimore side of things offensively. So I feel pretty good about Chen tonight. He's probably going to be locked in as my starting pitcher too, and I'm going to rotate in guys like Tanaka, Gio Gonzalez, and Keuchel. I think would be my 3 guys I'll rotate in with him, but I'm going to have a ton of him tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Great spot for him. And Jake Arrieta will throw in as more of a tournament option. Less than ideal matchup for him. Weather concerns. Not a whole lot going in his favor. He does have big-time upside, of course, but you just worry about the safety tonight against that team that, they're very capable of putting the ball in play and putting up some numbers. So I don't think I feel comfortable paying almost $10K for him outside of GPPs. And then I know that you like Gio Gonzalez a lot in tournaments, and it's hard to argue that against a Tampa Bay team that was mowed down yesterday. And obviously, he's not Chris Sale, but he has not quite the upside. But, he's a good strikeout pitcher, ground ball pitcher, so a lot of things go in his favor tonight as well.
Yeah.
A couple cheap guys. I'll give you my favorite cheap option, then I'll let you chime in with yours. I like Trevor May, and this is a guy that people have been picking on, $6,900. Seems like a steep price, but he's shown his upside. 7 innings, 9 Ks against the White Sox and against Boston over his last couple starts. Didn't do too well against Toronto, but most people aren't right now. And then a solid outing, 1 earned run in 6 innings pitched against Kansas City. So, I mean, against a St. Louis team missing Matt Holliday, I think he's a nice, cheap option as well.
Yeah, I don't mind him at all. We talked about him on the other pod extensively. I agree with it. Basically everything you are saying about him. I think he's a great GPP play. The guy I like as a really cheap option is Erasmo Ramirez against Washington. If Harper's out of the lineup, especially, that lineup doesn't really scare me a ton as far as like putting a ton of runs on the board. They have some power throughout that lineup even without Harper, but Erasmo's been pretty good lately. He's a small favorite in this one. I don't absolutely love him or anything. I just think he's a guy you can probably get 20 fantasy points out of tonight on DraftKings for just over $5,000 price tag.
Yeah, and I mean, when you can take advantage of that, I mean, he's priced similarly to guys like Harper and Trout. So, I mean, you can get a pitcher with that kind of upside right there. You got to take advantage. As we move over here to catcher, some interesting options. Travis d'Arnaud is an interesting option at $3,900. I think he's in play against Mark Burley. Matt Wieters, of course, against Aaron Harang at $4,400. Who are some other guys you're looking at here at catcher?
I mean, I don't love catcher today. It's a pretty tough position given that it's a 15-game slate, but I'm starting to feel like that every day, especially on DraftKings now that they moved Gaddis, who was a guy I was playing a ton. But, I mean, I'll look at Grandal against Gallardo. He's a decent option. Miguel Montero against Bauer. It's a decent option. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I'm okay with. I'm probably going to lean towards Vogt for $3,300 against Ross more than anything. And then Matt Wieters, like you mentioned, despite the fact that he's $4,400, I think he's probably the top option on the board, honestly.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I mean, he's hitting well. This is in a good spot. He's in a good spot. His team should be scoring some runs. If you need a really cheap option, I'm assuming Cameron Rupp should be in the lineup tonight. $2,300. He has been quite a bit against lefties. If you're not playing Chen, I think he's probably the best, the guy you feel okay about that's really cheap. Outside of that, really not a lot to like down there at the bottom. I'll throw out one tournament option is Willen Rosario does crush lefties, $3,300. If you're not playing Dallas Keuchel, I think he's a nice GPP option that no one's going to be on.
Yeah, I agree. I feel pretty good about that one too.
All right, first base. You can play this guy at first or third. I love Miguel Cabrera against the rookie John Moscott today. I think he's in a great spot. You got to pay a pretty price for him at $5,600, but without any pitching options that are extremely pricey, I mean, barely $10K for the most expensive guys, you can get a couple big bats to your lineup and feel good about it. So I'll be going that way quite a bit. Carlos Frias has been terrible against left-handed batters. Prince Fielder at $4,800 is another guy that I'm looking at quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't mind him either. It's just not. I just don't love catcher today. I'm probably going to lean towards spending up if I can. Is a big one.
Yep. Elsewhere, I like Adam Lind against Edison Volquez, who has been fairly good against left-handed pitching, but Adam Lind always seems to be a nice option because he crushes right-handed pitching.
Yeah.
Other options you got, Chris Davis is a great tournament option, first or third base eligibility there, $4,200 against Aaron Harang, because we know when he's bad, he's really bad. A couple other guys are pretty cheap, like Edwin Encarnacion. You don't love the matchup against Syndergaard, but we've seen him get crushed as well. So $4,100, he's got big-time upside in that matchup.
Yeah, one guy who I'm really upset isn't at catcher today, who I mentioned already, is Evan Gattis, that I like quite a bit against Bettis for Colorado.
Yeah.
I don't love the $4,400 price tag on DraftKings, but I love the matchup. He's crushed like below average righties on the season, and I really like him just in terms of that matchup. It's really tough to play him, though, with some of these other first basemen you've mentioned. One guy I really like, Brandon Belt, is only $4,000 against T1 Walker, who gives up a lot of home runs and fly balls for that matter. He's probably my favorite, like, I don't want to say value option because he's not really cheap, but, I'm not a guy that goes cheap at first base very often, but I think $4,000 for him is a really good price. As far as cheap guys go, there's no one that I'm really feeling great about. Maybe Corey Hart, but he's probably more likely for me to play him in the outfield at $2,500 against a lefty. He's been hitting, I think, fifth in the order against lefties, so he'd be my one guy that I would probably play cheaply at first base, but I'd rather spend up on a first baseman and play him in the outfield, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously concern with Corey Hart being that it's a lefty on the mound. He usually gets flexed out, platooned out against a righty. So if Rodon doesn't have it, doesn't pitch well, then he's going to have some issues staying in the game for that. So second base, some obvious options here. I like Dustin Pedroia against Williams Perez. Jason Kipnis is a tournament-only option, of course, against Jake Arrieta. Tough matchup for him there. A couple other guys to consider here. Colton Wong against Trevor May. If you're not playing Trevor May, $4,100, I like him. And then Jimmy Paredes, he should be back batting second again. It's either him or Brandon Phillips right around that 4K range for me.
Yeah, I don't mind either one of those guys. Another Houston guy that I like quite a bit, assuming he's in the lineup, is Jose Altuve. I think he had a hamstring issue over the weekend, so he's questionable for tonight. But another guy I really like against Betis today. He's a little bit high priced for me. I'd like to stay in that 4,000 range like you're talking about with there's a couple other guys I don't mind in there. Like I don't mind Kipnis against Arrieta, despite Arrieta being really good. He's 4,700. Maybe Jace Peterson at 3,500 against Porcello. He's a pretty decent option too. Not a lot else I feel really good about at second base. I think Phillips is one of my favorites, and Jace Peterson is probably my favorite cheap one. And then I'm hoping Altuve's in the lineup so I can use him in GPPs because I really do like that Houston lineup today against Betis.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And speaking of that, Luis Valbuena guy, I'll probably be playing at third instead of second, but I love his upside in this matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Forsythe's really cheap if you're not playing Gio Gonzalez, $2,800. He's been crushing lefties this season. And at $3,200, you can get your boy, Ben Zobrist. I know you prefer him against a lefty, but at that price tag, I don't mind him in this matchup here tonight either. Third base, already mentioned Valbuena. Of course, Miguel Cabrera, you can play down here as well. Some other options, Pablo Sandoval is a guy who's finally starting to hit the ball, $4,300. I don't like the price tag, but at the same time, he's been in double digits 4 straight games. It's going to be a low-owned tournament option for me, a guy that I'll mix in there every once in a while. Nolan Arenado, another Colorado guy who hits lefties well if you want a tournament option at 42. But I think the way to go here is the hot hitter, and that's Manny Machado, $4,200. The guy's absolutely on fire right now. He's doing it all. He's stealing bases every once in a while. He's hitting for power. Got a great lineup spot. I love him against Aaron Harang tonight.
Yeah, it's really hard to argue with him being as hot as he is. Another guy I like quite a bit, Joey Gallo tonight again, 3,800 against a righty in Frias, who doesn't scare me very much. I like that Texas order quite a bit, honestly, with Prince Fielder facing him also. The biggest problem with that Texas order for me is with Mitch Moreland and Prince Fielder hitting back-to-back, it's like impossible to stack on any site that doesn't have that utility spot. And it just makes it really tough because you hate leaving a 3 or 4 hitter out of your stack. And that was my big problem. Like yesterday, I was trying to stack Texas for a little bit, and I was trying to play around with it, and I just couldn't make anything I liked because if you leave out the guys in front of that 4 spot so you can play Fielder, or you can't play Fielder, or you can't play DeShields, who's been a pretty good value lately, and you got to play deeper into the lineup. And if you play it in front of that 4 spot, then you only have 3 guys, and you either got to use the 9 hitter or skip the 4 spot. So it makes it really tough. But I like Gallo as a one-off play for Texas, just like I do Fielder today. Another guy that's pretty interesting, if he's hitting high in the order again, is Jake Lamb for Arizona, only 3,400 on DraftKings. Has been hitting kind of toggling between second and fifth against righties. He faces Weaver tonight, who we mention all the time is a pretty good guy to play bats against.
Yeah, absolutely. And another guy who crushes lefties, Evan Longoria at 3,500. Obviously a tough matchup against Gio Gonzalez, but always a tournament option for me when he's facing the lefty. Shortstop now, Jose Reyes has been absolutely on fire. He gets a tough matchup against Noah Syndergaard tonight, $4,500. I like him. Carlos Correa, you mentioned that Houston lineup, picking on Betis. He's been fine since he's come up as well. Johnny Peralta, guy I prefer to pay up for against lefties, but I don't mind him against Trevor May here. And then, as always, my cheap power upside guy that I like is Wilmer Flores. He's getting kind of pricey at $3,800, but I still don't mind him at all against the lefty and Burley. Yeah,
I don't mind him either. No one really at the top that I feel great about. I mean, you mentioned Peralta. He's probably the best one because of price. No one has a great matchup. Tulo's facing a lefty in Keuchel, obviously, but that's not really a guy you want to target for 4,700 today.
Yeah.
Jimmy Rollins is still at 3,900, and he's been hitting too low in the order for me. Brandon Crawford's a guy I don't mind. He's been hitting 6th, and he's facing T1 Walker, who we mentioned gives up a lot of home runs. I think he's probably my GPP play today at 3,700 on DraftKings. If you're looking for cheaper guys, there's not anyone that I really love. You can look at a guy like if Cesar Hernandez is in the lineup against Chen, he's been playing against lefties a decent amount and hitting 6 or 7 in the order. I don't mind him a ton. Ryan Goins had a big game over the weekend. I want to say was that Friday night or Saturday?
I think it was Friday.
He had a home run and a double. I think it was Friday. Yeah. I don't mind him a lefty against Syndergaard. That's an okay play there. He is so low in the lineup though. It's really hard to like him a lot. There's just not a lot as far as cheap guys go that I feel good about today. I'd rather look a little bit further up. Maybe look at Yunel Escobar against Erasmo if you're not playing him. For Washington, I think is an okay play, but for a guy hitting third in the order, he just doesn't provide a lot of like really good numbers. But for 3,500, I feel okay.
Yeah, and same goes for Eugenio Suarez if you don't like Anibal Sanchez tonight. He'll be batting second, and he's a decent hitter. He's got a little bit of speed, so I don't mind going that way either. Outfield, of course, if Bryce Harper's in, you're considering him against Erasmo or Ramirez. Mike Trout gets a bad lefty and Robbie Ray tonight, so he's certainly in play. Guys like Adam Jones and Giancarlo Stanton, I mean, single bullet GPP plays for me. I mean, Adam Jones, not a bad matchup at 5,200. I don't like paying that if it's not a lefty. Same goes for Stanton. He's getting a righty and one of the better righties in the game, so no thanks. But I do like Andrew McCutchen at $5,000 against Rodon. Everyone seems to think he's been struggling. He's putting up pretty good numbers, especially since struggling to begin the season. And I mean, this guy kills left-handed pitching, so I like him a lot tonight.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. Jock Peterson at Texas against Gallardo is a guy I like quite a bit for 4,400. If Harper's in the lineup, obviously he's a good play against Erasmo Ramirez. Not a ton else I love at the top of outfield. I'm probably going to be using value guys in the outfield. I mentioned a catcher already. That's probably where I'm going to go unless I spend way up and try to spend on a bunch of other positions. There's a lot of value outfielders, though, as usual, that I like quite a bit. One guy that it feels like I play every day at this point is Billy Burns. He's 2,900 on DraftKings today, probably going to hit first in the order against Ross. Obviously, Ross is a pretty good pitcher, but for 2,900, Burns has just been really strong. Preston Tucker is another Houston outfielder that I like. I mean, I like most of that Houston lineup against Bettis. He's only 3,400, and he's probably going to hit third in the order again today. Gotta love him as a lefty versus the righty in Bettis. Bettis has not been good against either, but worse against lefties. Another guy that I've been playing a ton of, Jake Elmore, has been starting at first base for Tampa Bay. He's still 2,000 and has shortstop and outfield eligibility. I probably should have mentioned him at shortstop. He's a guy that goes in a ton of my GPP lineups just because it's really hard to find a guy that's even in the lineup at bare minimum on DraftKings, much less with shortstop and outfield eligibility and hitting 6 in the lineup. I mean, it's just point. He's not a big power guy, but he's been getting a decent amount of hits. He's been ranging between like 5 and 9 DraftKings points almost every game. And he's just a really solid cash game play if you're looking for a way to save money and get one of the top pitchers in there. And he's a decent GPP play because you can just load up on batters along with whatever pitchers you want with him. So he's a guy I'm going to keep playing until he gets above 2,000.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple other sub 3K guys. Eddie Rosario's been batting second a lot for Minnesota if you're not playing Lackey. And then guy that I really like, I couldn't believe his price tag, is David Peralta if he's back in the lineup. Obviously, he's been splitting some time in and out of the lineup, but did play yesterday. He's played actually the last 3 days, so check and see if he's in the lineup. But $2,900 against Jared Weaver, who has been absolutely crushed by left-handed batters this year. Already given up 9 home runs to him. I really like him a lot tonight. Yeah,
another cheap guy, Brandon Guyer, another guy for Tampa that I've been playing a decent amount. He's 3,100, and he's been hitting first in the order against lefties. He'll probably do that against Gio Gonzalez today. Not a great matchup, but for 3,100, a guy hitting at the top of the order is pretty hard to argue with.
Yeah, absolutely. So consider him. And I'll throw out one more guy. Rick Porcello does struggle against lefties. Yeah. And assuming he's in the lineup, Kelly Johnson at $3,200 is an interesting play as well.
Yeah, that's a good one too. And my last one, I mentioned Corey Hart at first base against Rodon. You mentioned a couple of the other Pittsburgh guys against lefties. He's usually right in the middle of that order against lefties and has been hitting him pretty well. 2,500 is a steal for him.
Definitely. I'll throw out Colby Rasmus before we get out of here against a bad righty. $3,700. And that's a great price for him with the type of power he has against right-handed pitching. With that, that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DFCafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all of your DFS needs.